All right, guys, we're going to throw together a couple different ways of securing fuel or oil lines or any kind of liquid line. And we're going to get a real clear understanding of what our goal of what we're attempting to secure here. These little spring clamps on these Hondas here, I've told you guys a couple times here that I don't like them. They're not a very good tension. They're okay brand new, and they're just okay. But there's just much better means of securing. These are really just a very cost-effective way for the manufacturer to secure fuel and oil lines, right? Mm-hmm. So let's look at some different options here. I'm going to focus on what we typically will see on vehicles. The manufacturers really got a lot more into a clamp like this, that we would take a pair of pliers and go around of the appropriate diameter that would pinch it with this nice wide base here. It does a pretty good job of securing all the way across all the barbs on the nipple there. So to get another opportunity here, you can stay about right here, is we have hose clamps. So these are nice because they're a mechanical means that we can get a pretty good tightness on here. And this is something that will surprise most people. Do you know inside the service manual that there's torque specs for hose clamps? How many people does that surprise?
Not surprised.
Well, what the camera can't see is that there's a bunch of hands going up, and I'll tell you this, it surprised me. And do you know when I noticed this? Torque spec? Not too many years ago. It was in teaching, and I was like, there's a torque spec for the radiator hose clamp? We were laughing about, well, we don't know what we don't know, because we're thinking, oh, tight's tight. When you over-tighten these, you ruin the worm gear that's in here, and you just strip them, and then they aren't doing anything. So our whole goal is to make sure we get this really good and tight. So there's another option there for a way of securing something. And then here's one other one here. This kit here, this is a high-end, this kit's well over $100. I think it actually might be pushing about $200. And what it comes with is the crimping pliers, a bunch of different assortments of hose clamps. And what you'd do is you'd go around your line, you'd put it on, and then you could see here, this has actually two clamps. And what it does is it allows me that I could clamp it this way. If I'm dealing with here, I'll go ahead and install it on here. It's like this. I could go ahead, like if I'm in a tight area and I can't actually get in there with the pliers in this way, because if I were to try and go this way, isn't the fuel valve actually in the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could see here that it allows us a little bit of flexibility on how we would go ahead and install that clamp. We got a couple of different options. Pretty cool. But what happens is it's extremely secure, and to get it off, you usually have to cut it off. And you take a really good chance of nicking the hose sometimes. So it's a little more risky on removal, but it's phenomenal. This stuff doesn't go anywhere. Harley Davidson's where I got experience to these. I know the British bikes, BMW, European bike, BMW, and the British bikes like my Triumph, they use this style of clamping system, and they do not move. Let's focus right here on a little drawing that I did to make an understanding of what we're actually trying to do. Inside of here, what I'm representing is the actual barb. So what those little humps right there, they're called the barbs, okay? This whole thing is called a nipple, and these are the barbs of the nipple. Now let's go back to my drawing here. And I want you to understand that that's what those are representing, okay? So this line right here is representing the fuel line that would get inserted onto that barb. When we're trying to clamp something, no matter what we're using for a means of a clamp, we always need to know that we want to make sure that we're beyond this last barb, so that when we pinch it down, when I pinch that hose down, it gets underneath this reverse fitting on this barb so that it prevents the line from being able to be removed. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So since you understand the barb and you understand this, you get a thorough understanding of what you're actually trying to accomplish, right? I'm going to show you probably my favorite way of securing things for fast and easy, non-critical fasteners on motorcycles, ATVs, dirt bikes, or whatnot. And that is cable ties. I really like cable ties. I'm going to show you a couple tools here to be able to secure these properly, and a couple of tips for making them clean and look nice. So the other thing, I grabbed a couple of packages. You could get them in different lengths, different colors, multiple options here. On the cable tie, the first thing I'm going to do here is insert the fuel line all the way fully seated. What you'll notice here is that fuel line bottomed out. You guys see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, if we're halfway on, we're reducing our opportunity. You'll also kind of notice as you feel it, you could feel the edge of the hose where the final barb is. So I've got one barb here and another barb here. So what I'm trying to do is I want to get secured. Remember in our drawing, let's review back to this. We want to be over here. So what you'll notice is I'm beyond that second hump, so I'm getting my fuel line on there. Okay? Now, I could put it, you could put these either way. So when I first start to put this on, what I want to do is I want to think about how do I want it to land. Okay? What I like is I like to be able to rotate this around so that where you can see, I only want to see as much as possible a flat band. Okay? I don't want to see the head of this. And the other big thing I don't like, if I were to tighten this in this position, when I cut this off with my pair of side cutters, it is impossible to get it flush. And what I'm going to do is have a razor sharp edge. So the problem we have off motorcycles or even this small engine here is when the customer goes to like clean the grass and the dirt and stuff that's in here, is they're taking their hand across there, they create another really sharp edge, you're going to nick yourself. If this is street bikes and your customer's cleaning their motorcycle and they just got it back from you for a carb job and they're wiping their hand along and they've done this for 3 years owning this bike and now all of a sudden they cut their hand, think they're pissed? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is just separating the good and the great, right? Just having a lot of attention to detail. The other thing we can think about is, so I wrapped it around this way. If I wanted to, and I wanted to go down with it, I could go this way. I mean, there's a couple different things for cosmetic value. In this particular one, since we can see above this, if we go down, we're going to have the best chance of hiding it. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and go across the teeth here, and I'm just going to suck this up. You have to be intentional when you get to this part. Okay? What's happening here is if once I get tight enough, I won't be able to slide it backwards or forwards. Are you with me on that? Mm-hmm. But you guys check this out. You ever seen one of these before? Anybody?
No, I haven't.
It's a cable tie tool. Now watch this, how simple this is. I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to get the tie. We're going to get the head of this tie is basically button up against this as we wrap it around. I'll do a side shot of this here. See how it's just pulling it tight? Okay, so that's what's going to happen here right now. I'm going to go ahead and butt this up. Okay, and now listen here. I got one more click. Another click, and I'm probably good here. What I'm going to do is this. Watch. I'm going to test my work. If I could pull that fuel line off, I'm not tight enough. Okay? The next thing you need to do is we need to cut this off. Now, the tool itself, I don't like to use this. Let's, I'll see if I can hold this enough to make this work. The design of this tool is actually meant that it has a cutter in here, and what you're able to do with this is you're just to twist this off. And do you see how it tore it? Mm-hmm. Okay, but it kind of leaves a little bit of a sharp edge anyway, and I don't have room to rotate here. Right. So what I like to do is I want to use a pair of side cutters. But here's where we get into trouble. If I go to cut this, and I put the hollow side in, look what's going to happen. Safety glasses? See that big sharp edge that I have out there? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't like that, okay? What I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to use this back edge because I can get flat. But what will happen is most people, if you guys could see this in a video, most people do this. They go straight in line with the fuel line, but the cutters are cut at an angle, aren't they? So watch what happens when I end up going straight. I left a really razor sharp edge, right? Now, if I take the cutters and I be intentional and I put them at about, 40 degrees or that, see how I gave the middle, look how clean and nice that is. And it's the least amount of obstruction there. Sound like a good idea?
Yep.
Man, guys, this is attention to detail. This is bike building 101. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to cut this as close as I can. And then the final assembly to do this is to simply, I'm going to try and hold the fuel line because I don't want to put a kink in it, okay? And how does that look?
Clean. Really clean.
Super clean. Would you say that even looks OEM or looks like something the manufacturer would do?
Oh, yeah.
Or your customers are going to love it. You're going to be secure. Nothing's going to come off and life's going to be good. I do want to show you how to remove them then. Once again, I'm going to support this fuel line. We're on there pretty dang good. Now, it looks like you think you'd hurt the fuel line here, but you're really not going to. We're just going to take the cutters. That simple. Didn't touch the fuel line at all. The reason is, and this is the difference between a cheaper tool and a higher end tool. Go ahead and look at the cutter here, and do you see how it's beveled in? So we're not actually dragging across other than friction on the fuel line. We actually have that beveled edge that's going to cut it above the fuel line. We're not going to hurt it. All right, guys. One last thing I'll just show you because it's sitting on the bench. This is a little bit fancier one. I'm not even that crazy about it, but one thing this has is it pulls it tight, and then when you give the final pull on it, you can determine how much tension you want. It pulls it, and then it crimps down and it cuts it. It does it all in one shot. It's supposed to pull it tight and then cut it.
What's that blue one for? How much is that?
These are like $5. I got this at Menards.
Really?
Yeah, what a great tool.